lost presentation. Chapter 1.
Sarah arrived at the Meridian Technologies headquarters on Monday morning with her heart pounding with excitement. Today was the culmination of 3 months of intense work. She was going to present her market expansion strategy to the entire board of directors. As the newest product manager, this presentation could determine the course of her career. She put her laptop bag on her desk and reached inside to take out the company computer containing the final version of her presentation. Her hand searched the bag once, then again with increasing desperation. The laptop was not there. Sarah emptied the contents of her bag onto her desk: notebook, pens, wallet, phone charger, earphones, but the laptop was not there. Her mind quickly reviewed her morning routine. She had definitely put it in the bag after finishing the final adjustments at home last night. Or had she? "Is everything okay, Sarah?" asked Mike from the next desk. "I can't find my laptop," she replied with a tense voice. "The board presentation is at 11, and all my files are in it." Mike frowned. "Did you check if you left it at home?" Sarah called her housemate and asked her to search the apartment, but nothing was found. Increasingly panicked, her mind retraced her steps to work. The cafe, the subway, the walk to the office. She remembered placing her bag on the cafe counter for a brief moment while paying. Could someone have taken it then? Sarah checked the time. 8:45. There were only 2 hours left until the presentation that could determine her career, and the laptop containing 3 months of research, projections, and strategy work was missing. Just then, she received a notification on her phone. Looking at the screen, her eyes widened in fear. The message from an unknown number read, "I found a lost laptop. Could it be yours? But the information inside looks very interesting." Sarah's hands were trembling. She read and reread the message. Was this an honest citizen who found her laptop, or a threat? She immediately replied, "Yes, I have a lost laptop. Please share the details." The tension in the office was rising. Marketing Director Caroline approached her desk. "Sarah, are you ready for your presentation? The CEO is particularly eager to hear your ideas." "Yes, just putting the final touches," Sarah lied, hiding her phone under the desk. "Great. Remember, this presentation is critical for our decision to enter the Asian market," Caroline said, smiling as she walked away. Sarah, in a panic, looked back at her phone. A reply had come. "Meridian's Asian strategy. Your competitors would pay a fortune for this. Heck, even Apex Tech would, right?" Her heart was about to stop. Not only had this person found her laptop, but they had also examined its contents. Moreover, they mentioned Apex Tech, Meridian's biggest competitor. Was this blackmail? "Hey, what's wrong?" whispered Mike with a worried look. Sarah quickly explained the situation. Mike said, "You should call the police." "I can't," said Sarah. "By the time the police arrive, the information could be leaked. It would also create a scandal within the company and end my career." Her phone rang again. "Meet me at Bayside Park on Eaton Street, 30 minutes. Come alone. And of course, bring money." Sarah checked the time. 9:15. She was dealing with a blackmailer and had little time left before the meeting. She told the office she was stepping out to grab coffee and left. Upon arriving at the park, she saw a figure in a black hoodie sitting on a bench, scanning the area nervously. As she approached, her phone rang once more. However, this time, the message was from the company's security department. "Emergency. Attention all employees. A laptop containing company documents has been stolen. Report any suspicious activity. Sarah was stunned. She hadn't reported her laptop missing to anyone yet. How could this be? Now her eyes were on the hooded figure walking toward her. Sarah cautiously approached the hooded figure who was getting closer. Her heart was pounding in her ears. When the figure raised their head, Sarah gasped in disbelief. "Megan?" she said incredulously. "Is it you?" The person standing before her was her intern, Megan, a quiet and diligent university student who had only been working in the office for 2 months. "I'm sorry, Sarah," Megan said, her eyes showing a strange expression. Did you take my laptop? Why?" Sarah's voice trembled with anger and confusion. No, I didn't take it," Megan said hastily. "But I came in early this morning and saw an open note on your desk." Sarah frowned. "What note?" It said, "I took your laptop. Bayside Park, 9:30, Megan explained. "I thought you might be in trouble and wanted to help." Sarah was even more confused. "So, did you send those messages?" "No," Megan replied. "I just followed you." "What were those messages about?" Just as Sarah was about to explain, a cyclist approached them quickly from the other end of the park. When he arrived, he dismounted and removed his helmet. "Oh, both of you are here. Great," the cyclist said. It was Jason from the company's IT department. "Jason?" Sarah said in surprise. "Are you involved in this too?" Jason waved his hand dismissively. "Look, we don't have time to explain. The security system sent a strange alert at 9. Someone is accessing our files remotely." "What? But how?" Sarah asked. "I don't know, but I've tracked it to your laptop," Jason explained. "It's currently online at Digital Cafe on Grant Street." Sarah's face turned pale. "I stopped by there this morning. I left my bag on the counter for a second while getting coffee." "Someone probably accessed your Wi-Fi password," Jason said. "But worse, they're downloading your presentation and emailing the files to someone." Sarah panicked. "To Apex Tech?" "No," Jason said, showing his phone. "To an address within Meridian." The email address of one of the board members appeared on the screen. Sarah's knees went weak. This wasn't just a leak. It was sabotage, and it was coming from someone who wanted her seat. "We have to move fast," Jason said. "We need to get to the cafe and retrieve your laptop. But more importantly..." Just then, all 3 of their phones rang simultaneously. They all had the same company message. "Critical situation. Board meeting moved up to 10. Sarah checked the time, 9:40. They now had only 20 minutes left. "Let's go," Sarah said, wasting no time. The 3 of them bolted out of the park, with Jason keeping pace on his bike. "Sarah, you and Megan take a cab," Jason panted. "I'll take a shortcut by bike. It might be faster." The first cab they hailed stopped. As Sarah and Megan quickly got in, Sarah told the driver, "Digital Cafe, Grant Street, it's urgent." As the cab merged into traffic, Megan pulled out her tablet from her bag. "Maybe we can connect to the company system remotely and get a copy of your presentation." "Impossible." Sarah shook her head. "I only saved that presentation on my own computer. I never uploaded it to the company network." "Why?" Megan asked in surprise. Sarah took a deep breath. "Because it contains controversial proposals. I'm suggesting changes to the current management team while entering the Asian market." Megan's eyes widened. "So someone is sabotaging your presentation to try to protect their own position," Sarah finished. "But who?" Just then, a new message arrived on her phone. I changed your presentation. You will fail. You should have never crossed my path. Sarah showed the message to Megan. Do you recognize the number? Megan shook her head. As the cab crawled through traffic, Sarah looked out the window and tried to spot Jason. She saw him speeding down a side street on his bike. Can we go any faster? Sarah asked the driver. Sorry, roadwork ahead, the driver said, pointing to the orange cones up ahead. Sarah checked her watch. 9:47. They had only 13 minutes left. She pulled out her phone and called Caroline. Caroline, do you know why the meeting was moved up? The CEO had an emergency, Caroline replied. But don't worry, the entire board will still listen to you. Where are you? I might be a little late, Sarah said. You can't be late, Caroline said sharply. This is a critical presentation for the future of the company, Sarah. After hanging up, Megan asked anxiously, What do we do now? Just then, the cab pulled up in front of Digital Cafe. As Sarah rushed out, she saw Jason waiting at the door, looking pale. Bad news, Jason said. The laptop isn't here, but I've tracked it. It's now in the company building on the 15th floor. Sarah's face went white. The 15th floor was where the boardroom was located. Someone took my laptop to the meeting room, Sarah said with a trembling voice, and they've changed everything in it. Her fingers flew over her phone. We have only one chance left. She found an old version of the presentation that she had backed up on her cloud storage account 6 months ago. It was incomplete, not up to date, but it was better than nothing. We need to get back to the company, Sarah said, immediately. Just then, all 3 phones received a photo. Sarah's laptop on the meeting table, with a message in big letters on the screen. The real presentation is here. Sarah, Jason, and Megan were racing towards the company building. The cab was zigzagging through city traffic. This doesn't make sense, Sarah said, checking her watch. Who would go through so much trouble to sabotage my career? Jason was doing something on his phone. I'm tracking your laptop's IP address. It's still connected to the building's network. Megan leaned forward. Maybe this is a bluff. Maybe the presentation wasn't changed. I can't take that risk, Sarah said desperately. My career and the company's future are at stake. When the cab stopped in front of Meridian Technologies, it was 9:53. They all rushed into the building and headed for the elevator. 15th floor, Sarah said, pressing the elevator button. As the elevator doors closed, Jason said, Hold on a second, reaching for Sarah's access card. Sarah handed him the card, still confused. Jason scanned it with an app on his phone. Your last card usage. Entry to the lobby at 8:30 this morning. Nothing else. Sarah frowned. So no one cloned my card? Megan whispered. Then it must be someone from the inside. When the elevator reached the 15th floor, they stepped out quietly into the corridor. The meeting room door was closed, and voices could be heard from inside. Sarah took a deep breath. I need to get my laptop first, then I'll explain the truth. I'll enter with a technical emergency excuse, Jason said. You and Megan be ready. Jason knocked on the door and went in. A few seconds later, he came back out, looking bewildered. No one is inside, just your laptop, open and connected to the projector. All 3 of them entered the room. Sarah's laptop was indeed there, her presentation open on the screen, but in its original unaltered form. I don't understand, Sarah said, standing by her laptop. She looked through the files. Everything is in place. But how is this possible? Just then, the meeting room door opened, and Caroline walked in. Sarah, finally you're here, she said with a relieved voice. "Where have you been? Everyone is waiting for you." Sarah asked in confusion. "Everyone where?" Caroline laughed. "In the big conference room on the 8th floor, of course. Didn't we inform you about the room change?" At that moment, everything clicked into place. Sarah checked her inbox and found the email she had missed in the morning chaos. Meeting room change. 8th floor conference room instead of 15th floor. "But my laptop," Sarah stammered. Jason examined the laptop and said, "This is your backup laptop, the one you gave me for repair last month. I prepared it in the office last night, planning to give it to you today." Megan asked, "What about those messages?" Still confused. Just then, Sarah received another message on her phone. "Surprise! A small test before the meeting. We planned it with Caroline. We wanted to see how you perform under pressure. Result: impressive. Waiting on the 8th floor. Marcus, CEO." Sarah's jaw dropped. Caroline smiled. "Was this a test?" Sarah said in disbelief. "You're a strong candidate for the new Asia director role," Caroline said. "But Marcus wanted to see your crisis management skills." Sarah took a deep breath, then smiled. "Well, let's not keep the CEO waiting." As the four of them headed to the 8th floor, Sarah thought, "Maybe I really do work well under pressure."
Chapter 2.
Sarah was still bewildered. "But why such a test?" Marcus, with a serious expression, replied, "The Asian market is a tough arena. You will face unexpected situations." Caroline interjected, "Actually, there's one more part to the test." Sarah's heart started racing again. "More?" "Yes," Caroline said, turning on the projector. "We now want you to give your actual presentation." Sarah's original presentation appeared on the screen, with the title on the first slide, "Meridian's Asia Strategy, a Proposal for Radical Change." Marcus said, "We want to see your courage. We are ready to hear your proposal for management changes." Sarah gulped. They knew everything. They had secretly reviewed the presentation file. She began, then paused. Everyone in the room was watching her. Just then, the door opened, and a surprising guest entered, the CEO of Apex Tech. "Ah, just in time," said Marcus. "Sarah, you will present this to both companies for a potential merger." Sarah's eyes widened. What she thought was a test had turned into the most important presentation of her career. Taking a deep breath, Sarah collected her professionalism. As Apex Tech's CEO Angela Chen took her seat, Sarah began her presentation. "The Asian market is not a battlefield, but an opportunity," she began. "And sometimes, the greatest opportunities arise from shaking hands with your strongest competitors." As the presentation progressed, Sarah's proposal became clear. A merger between Meridian and Apex Tech, creating one powerful player instead of two giants. "Our companies have been rivals for years," Sarah said. "But imagine, Meridian's software expertise combined with Apex's hardware strength." Angela Chen leaned forward, her eyes shining. Marcus nodded in agreement. Just as Sarah was showcasing critical market projection graphs, the room's lights suddenly went out. The projector shut down. "It's a power outage," said someone in the dark. Sarah's phone vibrated. The screen showed a message. "The real test begins now. This time, it's real." When the lights came back on, Sarah's presentation on the screen had completely changed. Instead of a merger plan, a hostile takeover strategy for Apex Tech was displayed. Angela Chen's face tightened. "Is this part of the test too?" Marcus looked at Sarah in bewilderment. Sarah? This time she knew it wasn't a test. Someone had genuinely sabotaged her presentation. This presentation is not mine, Sarah quickly said. Someone has altered my files. Angela Chen stood up. I flew in from Singapore for this meeting, Miss Thompson. Don't waste my time. Marcus intervened. Sarah, we expect an explanation. Sarah thought fast. She pulled out her phone and showed all the suspicious messages she had received that morning. Someone is sabotaging us, she said. They want to prevent the merger of the two companies. Jason stepped forward from the back of the room. I can check the system logs. Someone must have accessed the presentation remotely. Just then, all participants received an email simultaneously. Meridian and Apex cannot merge. I have confidential information from both companies. I will leak it to the media within an hour. Caroline quickly picked up the phone. Can we track the IP address? Jason shook his head. The message came from an anonymous server. Angela Chen slammed the table. This is unacceptable. You have a security breach. Sarah suddenly paused. She had noticed something, a detail in the email. Her eyes scanned the room and landed on a quiet figure sitting in the corner. It was Robert Wilson, Meridian's IT security director. As always, he was silent, observing. But today, he was looking at his phone more than usual. Robert, Sarah said loudly, why haven't you spoken since this morning? All eyes turned to Robert. He smiled slightly and stood up. Because I was busy, he said calmly. This merger would have made my department redundant. He raised his phone. And I couldn't let my 15-year career end like this. Robert, think, Sarah said slowly, approaching him. This is more than just a department issue. Robert smiled bitterly. 15 years, he said. For 15 years, I've ensured this company's security. Marcus stood up. And we've always valued your work, Robert. Really? Robert raised his voice. Apex's cybersecurity team is twice the size of ours. If the merger happens... You're wrong, Angela Chen interjected. Actually, just then Jason's voice was heard. I recovered the files. The original presentation is back. Robert panicked and reached for his phone, but Caroline had already called security. Wait, Sarah suddenly said, surprising everyone. She walked toward Robert. Didn't you read the final part of my presentation? She asked. Because if you had read it before sabotaging it... A new slide appeared on the projector. Unified Cybersecurity Operations, Director, Robert Wilson. Robert's hand shook. What? Sarah smiled. My plan was to merge the security departments of both companies and put you in charge. But Apex's team, Angela Chen interjected. I've heard about your AI-based security protocols. Impressive. So, I wasn't going to lose my job. On the contrary, Sarah said. You were going to be promoted. Robert's hand, which had dropped his phone, trembled. Security guards had quietly entered the room. Marcus stepped forward. Robert, the choice is yours. Either forget this incident and accept your new position, or... Robert took a deep breath. His hand went to his pocket, and he pulled out a USB drive. Can you undo all the changes? He asked Jason. The room fell into a deep silence. Everyone was waiting for Jason's answer. 5 minutes, Jason said, taking the USB drive and heading to the computer. I can revert the entire system to its original state. Robert handed him the USB drive, his face showing both shame and relief. Sarah turned to the projector. In the meantime, I'd like to complete my presentation, if you don't mind. Angela Chen and Marcus nodded in agreement. What we've experienced today, Sarah began, actually proves the validity of my proposal. 2 companies, 2 different cultures, but a common goal. From the back of the room, Jason called out, "System restored. Original files are back." Sarah showed the final slide. Meridian Apex, the future of Asia. Angela Chen said, "Considering everything that happened this morning, including the test, this was an impressive performance." Marcus smiled. "Let's prepare the merger agreement." As the meeting ended, Caroline approached Sarah. "Sorry for the laptop crisis we put you through this morning, but you handled everything brilliantly." Sarah smiled. "Sometimes the biggest crises turn into the greatest opportunities." "By the way," Caroline added, "you're also a candidate for the Asia Operations Directorship, if you're still interested, of course." Sarah looked out the window at the city's skyline. The chaos of the morning now seemed very distant. "I'm interested," she said, "and I think I'm pretty good at handling crises now."
Thank you for watching our video.